You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaw people have a rich history and a bright future. At the Choctaw Cultural Center, you can take part in a story 14,000 years in the making. Stroll through our immersive exhibits portraying Choctaw life from the moment our ancestors emerged from the Nani Weha in Mississippian homelands to the Trail of Tears, where we lost so many loved ones, and finally to the modern-day tribe making a positive impact on local communities throughout southeastern Oklahoma. Try your hand at our social dancing and stickball and learn more about our vibrant culture through demonstrations, workshops, and classes. The kids will have a blast in our Luxie Activity Center. The Choctaw Cultural Center is more than a museum. It's a living, breathing experience. Visit choctawculturalcenter.com to plan your visit. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode, bringing you a fairly athletic podcast today. Mr. Ben Ezugha is on the podcast, founder, I guess, of Strike League, yes. Which is flag football for high school and under women, yes. Right, and girls.
Yes.
So super pumped to dive into all that stuff. And I played flag football. I mean, I'm from the UK, right? So we never played football at all. We played real football. But I first played flag football in college, had an absolute blast doing it. It's a lot of fun. And we always had like a powder puff game every year. The girls would kind of get involved as well. And obviously a mutual friend of ours, Cody, reached out and said, hey, I got a guy you need to meet. He needs to come on the podcast and tell you about what he's doing. So we made it happen. So thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it and ready to dive into the story. But before we do dive into the reason behind Strike League, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Ben. Husband to a lovely lady named Mandy. I got 3 girls myself. I'm a graphic designer by trade.
Okay.
I lived in San Diego during my 20s, and it was a pretty formative time in my life where I got to learn the kind of person who I wanted to be, the kind of father I wanted to be. I got to get into a little bit of coaching, and it pretty much created this love for the game. Yeah. I played a little bit of junior college football out there as well too, but my coaching out there really solidified it more than just running around and catching footballs.
Yeah.
And so that pretty much is what led to my journey today.
Okay, yeah. So do you grew up in Oklahoma before you go to San Diego?
I did.
Okay.
Went to Edmond Santa Fe High School, graduated 2002, and I ended up out in San Diego. I had an old high school coach who had a lot of connections in California.
Yeah.
And he gave me a list of maybe 11 or 12 junior colleges. And I played in high school, but I didn't play well enough to get like a 4-year scholarship. So he was like, "This is the next best thing," you know. And I sent all of my tapes to all of the colleges out there, and I got 2 responses. One was from San Joaquin Delta College in Stockton, California, and the other one was from Grossmont College. And at the time I'm 17. I've been out of the state maybe a handful of times, but never to California. And one question I had for both of them was, you know, how close or far are you from the beach? So San Joaquin Delta College said, we're about 2.5 hours from the beach. And Grossmont College was like, we're 30 minutes. I said, well, I'm going to go to San Diego then. Because to me, there's why go to California and not experience California.
Right.
So that's how I ended up at San Diego. I stayed roughly for like 12 years, and I met my wife. She lived here. I was very fortunate that she happened to live in my hometown in Edmond, and we dated long distance for a couple of years, and then we had this, okay, so what are we? What are we doing? What's the next step? We thought about her going out there, and everything for her would have been like a step down career-wise, pay-wise. And she's like, why don't you come out here? And I still had friends and family out here. And I was like, all right, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you grew up playing football. I assume you grew up playing a lot of other sports, but football is the one you kind of gravitated mostly towards?
I grew up playing basketball, but my brothers and I were like the athletes of the group of people that we played basketball with. And every single time we play, you know, two-hand touch or, you know, tackle football, we were always far and away the best out of all of us. There was really a couple of athletes playing with a bunch of basketball players playing football. Right. So then I was like, okay, why don't I actually play real football? Yeah. And out here, when you're playing 7th grade, is like the first official grade that you can play for free outside of playing Pop Warner. So when I played, I had sprinter speed, and I didn't really know how to play. I just outran
you're
kids.
Athletic, so you knew that you had something.
Then I realized, I'm pretty decent at this. Yeah. So I was 5'9", and of course you need to be tall to play basketball. I mean, I was good and athletic, but I just wasn't tall enough to like get any whatever. And then I decided, you know, football's going to be my route. Sure. You know, so I just took that and ran with it.
Yeah. So you go to San Diego, close to the beach, live in the California lifestyle. It's 70 degrees every day. Yeah. It's much better than the Oklahoma winters. You know, you're going through all that. And what was kind of like the educational route at that time? You think, you know, I'm going to be a businessman, or did you think I'm going to be set on being a coach?
Well, I've always been an artist. I could always draw. And I knew I knew in 1998, 99, 2000, like I knew things were going to be digitized and be computers. Like, well, how can I use my God-given talents and merge that with, you know, and I've did some research and realized, graphic design is exactly that. So I was at Grossmont College for 3.5 years. And then I transferred to San Diego State. And I got my degree in graphic design 3 years after I transferred in 2009, in the middle of the recession. Like, got a diploma, you know, switched the little tassel thing, and then had no job. Yeah. So that was when a good friend of mine, Jason Factuar, got a shout out to Jason. We were junior college teammates, and he said, hey, this high school that I'm coaching at needs a freshman wide receivers coach. And I've always been involved in youth sports and mentoring and stuff, but I've never actually coached the sport that this is my sport, you know. So I just jumped at the opportunity. And, you know, I wasn't doing anything at the time because I was looking for a job and I didn't have a job. And I started coaching and instantly fell in love with it. And at Valhalla High School. And fortunately for us, the kids that we were coaching were actually pretty good. So it wasn't like...
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, you know, here's how to run this post, and they go in and do it exactly how you show. Like, this is easy, you know.
Yeah. Well behaved, good athletic kids, right? Not dealing with kind of delinquents.
Exactly. I mean, you have your other some kids who need a little bit more help than others, behavioral wise. But other than that, it was just a dream. Yeah. And so I worked from 2009 to 2013 as a football coach at Valhalla, and I started from freshman, 2 years as freshman, and then there was a coaching change after that second year, and they bumped us all up to varsity and JV. Yeah. And so the same kids we were coaching as freshmen were now juniors and seniors when we're the varsity coaches, and it was like 4 years of really coaching and really grooming up these kids to be real serious, really good, legit players. And we went CIF semifinals and quarterfinals, and we were pretty good, 7-3 records, and it was a really fun. If it wasn't for my wife, I'll probably still there. Yeah, I'd still be there.
Yeah. I guess that's where you find your fire, right? You find your love and passion for the sport, and it's it goes far beyond just coaching kids, right? There's a lot more life mentor and all of the stuff. And, you're raising young adults at the time, and since for some of these kids you might be a father figure and all that stuff. Like, there's so much more that goes into it, rather than just, hey, here's a play. Like, we're a group of guys together, we do this on the field. It's a lot more off the field and a lot more impact off the field than you probably initially thought about too.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm still Facebook friends. We still talk on the phone every once in a while, once a year or a couple of times a year, with a lot of these guys. And now they're pushing 30, and some of them have kids. They're getting engaged, like they're moving on through their lives. But it's like, I remember you when you were 15, right? And they followed my journey of I left with my girlfriend, and now she's my wife, and now we have kids, and now we have a home, and some of them have came in to Oklahoma and visited us while we were here. That's cool. And it's a lifelong bond. Yeah, that's created within those 3 or 4 years, and it's one of those things that I really cherish, really close to my heart, and I didn't want to get back into coaching until I found a similar situation that was like, this is worth it. Yeah.
So while you're in coaching then, and you have you have a diploma in graphic design, right? And that kind of everything's going that way, but you can't get a job. Do you completely shelve graphic design, or are you still kind of sketching and just kind of keeping the hobby on the side?
I'm still trying to. I mean, San Diego is expensive. I'm still trying to find internships, paid internships, entry-level positions. And I found a couple of spots where I was working part-time concurrently and trying to coach weeknights during the fall and late summer, fall. And I was grinding, just trying to make it happen, But it's a time I look back on very fondly. And because I didn't give up on graphic design, I'm still doing it today. So it's one of those things where both are equally influential in my life. Yeah. So,
is graphic design kind of like just soothing to you? You just grab the pen and pencil and the pad and just kind of like, hey, let me just go.
It can be. I mean, it's kind of like being in the Matrix, where you can just kind of see all the code. Like, if you're not of the Matrix, you just see this pen or this water bottle or whatever. But like, if you're in the Matrix and you can see all the code. It's kind of like that, where you just this pamphlet I know what it takes to create this pamphlet right there, or I see a logo, or I see an ad, and it's like I know the back and forth that it takes to create that, and how long it probably took to make that, or how good a logo is, or how bad a logo is, or whatever. It's so prevalent. It's all around us, and if you're not aware of it, it goes straight over your head.
You're just like, it's just a pamphlet, it's a logo, whatever it is, right? It's just you don't realize the significance of it. And even a lot of, I think the one that comes to mind straight away is like the FedEx logo, right, with the arrow in it. I did not know there was an arrow in that FedEx logo until somebody pointed it out to me.
It's a lot of subliminal stuff in graphic design. How people aren't aware about how much it can influence decisions. But I mean, that's the fun part about it.
Right.
You know, so I enjoy it.
Yeah. So you kind of have that conversation with your girlfriend, now wife, at the time, thinking, hey, what are we like? Do you want, let's come back to Oklahoma because her coming to you, the job, wouldn't have worked out. What happens then? You obviously, you can't coach, so you come back here and you're thinking, I'm going to go graphic design, or are you thinking trying to find a coaching job?
So whenever we decided that I was going to come back, I said, I will come back, but I need to stay one more year. And she wasn't too happy about that. and I did that because there was one guy that I was coaching who ended up being one of the better players I've ever coached. Got a scholarship to a Division II school, John Todd. Got a scholarship to a Division II school, Humboldt University at the time. Played an All-Star game, was MVP in an All-Star game, and he was like one of my proteges. He came in, I was like, okay, I'm going to coach this kid up really. I coached all of them up, but I knew this kid had something in him, and I couldn't leave at his junior year. So I was like, I got to stay. I got to see it through. Unfortunately, we graduated roughly 40 seniors that year, and we were terrible. We were trash. So we were really good. And then his senior year, we just
Which
tanked.
happens, right? You get that.
It happens. And the parents turned on us so quickly. The parents thought we were like the best coaching staff of all time. Good job, guys. Good job, coaches. And then once we went 1-9,
you guys suck.
Like, are you guys watching this? Like, we had an open letter written.
Oh, geez.
And like, it was the worst.
Yeah.
But like, coaching sessions was just so funny because we were getting ran through. We just can't do anything about it. And we're just laughing in the film room. Like, what can we do? You can't do anything else,
All we can try and do is have fun at this point, right?
Exactly.
Just get everyone some game time.
Yeah. But my guy played well enough to get into the All-Star game.
Gotcha.
He played well in the All-Star game. He got a scholarship off of his efforts in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And he did all the work, but I felt like it was a full circle moment. After that ended, loaded up my 99 Chevy Malibu, and we drove. Took 2 days to drive back home. I had a job lined up that fell through, and I lived at my parents' house for roughly a year until things got much better, and then I moved in with her. And after that, a few months later, proposed, and then roughly almost a year later, we got married.
Start the life then, right?
Yeah. So her and I, we were already in our early 30s, and we knew what we wanted. Yeah. It was each other, and we knew, we knew we wanted kids. We knew we didn't want to have one of those 10-year honeymoons. So things kind of happened pretty quick, but I wouldn't have changed any other way.
Yeah, once you know, right?
Exactly.
Like once you find your person and you're kind of aligned and great, let's have a family. And you have 3 daughters? Okay. What are the ages?
6 and 22 months.
Twins?
22 months, yeah.
But you have twins, they're twins? That's special.
So we had...
First time is special too, right?
Twins. We had twins in 2017. We had another set of twins that miscarried in 2019.
Sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. And then we had Vera. We had Sia and Zara. Yeah. And then we had Vera, who's now 22 months. So I spent my whole life being cognizant of knowing that I wanted to be a father. And as a man, you're always thinking about, okay, when I have my sons. My dad had 3 sons and a daughter. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to just pop out a couple of sons to regards. We're going to be football players. I'm going to teach them, And I played football, I ran track, played basketball. I'm like, whatever pitfalls I had, I'm going to navigate them out of it. And they're going to go further than me. Then we have 5 girls straight off the bat. 5 girls straight off the bat. So, my relationship with my children in football changed because it went from I'm going to coach them. I'm going to train. They're going to be really good, and it went from that to I guess we can watch OSU football. We can watch NFL on Sundays. I can keep her up to date. I keep them And then I saw this video of Mike Evans, the wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, handing out scholarships to high school athletes in the Tampa Bay region.
Yeah.
And some of those scholarship recipients were girls. And I'm like, well, girls play football in Florida? I had no idea. So I Googled it, and it turns out they've been playing football since 2002, like in the state. Like flag football is a sanctioned sport in Florida, has been since 2002, and it's its own culture out there. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. Like, if you're from Oklahoma,
right?
We don't.
How would you know?
We're not as progressive as most coastal places when it comes to both genders participating in the same things. So I just went down this rabbit hole of like girls flag football.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I be a part of this? How can I volunteer? This was a spark that lit for me, and I'm like, I will get back into coaching to do this. I didn't want to go start at some random high school and like start from the ground up and work another 5-6 years to get to where I was. But this, I'm willing to volunteer for this. I don't need to get paid. I'm willing to help and show up a couple of times a week and do this. And I did research, and I just couldn't find anything. The most I could find was like I-9 leagues, where if you're a girl, you can play in co-ed, because when you're 8-9, you know, the difference between strength and speed is not much at all.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, I want to do something that's just for girls, and we don't have that here.
Yeah.
So
now we do.
Now we do.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah. What did your wife think when you came across this idea?
She was proud.
Yeah.
She was happy. There are some times where she was worried.
Sure.
You know, any spouse, rightfully so, would be worried about like putting your heart on your sleeve and going out there and trying to, you know, make things happen and getting rejected. But she's, you know, proud of my efforts. I'm grateful for her. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like the unknown, right? You're like, hey, I'm going into the unknown, and I'm going to go set up a business, and do this, and it eventually it's going to be for my girls, but it might not be for my girls, right? Like, who knows? They might not even want to do football, right? They might want a puppy or a pony or something else.
Exactly.
But at the same time, like, just that thought and that idea of, you know, I'm going to go out on my own and set this up. It's, you know, it's a big task, and obviously it takes time, and it sometimes, because you're putting more time into this, you might take time away from your relationship and being a father and all that stuff. Like, something has to give.
Yeah.
But, you know, having the support of a spouse in that is super important. So.
It's super important. It's major. And I have her support. And right now our kids are 6. They attended their first practice that we had, a session. I shouldn't call it practice, but a session. And I realized they don't have the attention span.
Sure. Yeah.
We're going through warm-ups, you know, calisthenics and stretching and stuff like that, dynamic stretching. And by the time it was almost 90 degrees, sweats like beating off their foreheads. Daddy, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, my own daughters, the girls that are here are gung-ho about it, but my own daughters have stabbed me in my back. I was like, all right, well, if you can go and, you know, sit. My mother was there in attendance, and I was like, go over there and, you know, hang out with grandma real quick. I said, okay. And I didn't want to like be like, come on, you know, just yank him back in there. No, I just wanted them to let them know that it's okay. They can relax. They don't have to do this yet.
Yeah.
You know, so.
It is tough, like being the son or the daughter of the coach, right? Like, because you always get treated, yes, there are cases where they get the best treatment, right? But, you know, if you have a parent that has the awareness that, like, hey, I don't want the other kids to think that my kids are getting the best treatment, you're harder on the kid because you have to prove a point, right?
Yeah.
My dad was our soccer coach, same way.
Yeah.
And our golf, you know, kind of our golf kind of coach as well. So, yeah, it was, you know, I know exactly how that feels, being under, you know, that coaching.
They were, I don't know if they have a grasp of team sports yet.
Sure.
Because they thought we were just out there playing, running around. And I'm like, no, this is serious now. We're here to actually learn something. And compete. And I didn't want the other girls to be like, no, like, why is he treating them this way or that way? As I was like, okay, go ahead, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you can go over there and hang out with grandma for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
So looking forward then, what is like the idea, the plan, the vision of, you know, just youth development for girls in sport, and just kind of like that roadmap of why, you know, it's not just because there is a need for this. Like there's a lot of things that go in line with this as well, right? Like building competitiveness and learning how to lose and win and put time in, you know, and practice, stuff like that. Like there's so many life lessons from sport, and you know, I'm a kind of, we could talk about it all day, but for me, like the fact that people don't keep score drives me nuts. Yeah. You know, like we should be breeding competitive kids. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just tell me a little bit about kind of like the plan, the roadmap, and where you want to take it.
There's 3 phases. This is what we're doing right now.
Okay.
What we want to do in the near future, and the end goal. And what we're doing right now is we're just holding sessions to lift up the floor of everybody's understanding of football. You know, trying to close the gap between guys and girls. Most guys, you said you were from the UK, like most guys here, football's on the TV all the time.
Yeah.
Always. Even in the off season, football's on the TV. Yeah. And you just learn through osmosis. You just learn through throwing around the football on the field and playing on the playground. And girls aren't invited into those circles. And so even when you start at the beginning, never played before, you know certain things you can and can't do. And we're just trying to close out that gap, teaching girls how to throw, teaching girls how to be competent in catching, teaching girls how to, you know, run routes, how to pull flags, taking pursuit angles on defense to stop big breaks and big touchdowns and whatnot. We're just teaching them the basics right now. And I'm also implementing things that are, you know, fun, to where it's not just, we're not out there running wind sprints and doing ladder drills, and like, this is not like, we're not trying to send girls to college right now. This is like, let's have fun. Bring your friends. If you got cleats, bring them, because it'll help. Yeah. Bring some water, and like, we're just gonna learn the game. In the near future, I hope to have leagues in the spring of 2024. And originally this was for high school age girls, but what I'm realizing is that the opposite is happening. Is that the most attention that this is getting is from the elementary and middle school girls. They are the ones who are actually, hey, I want to do that. And high school girls, if you speak to them on a one-on-one level, they'll say yes, but when the rubber meets the road, they're kind of afraid to stick out their necks and like be the first. Mm-hmm. If their friends aren't out there, or if there isn't a crowd of other high school girls already enjoying it, they're kind of weary of being the first or being alone. Mm-hmm. But the middle school girls don't care, which is like, okay, well, so now I have to do a complete 180, and this is now this is for all girls, but I have to service the ones that are showing up.
Right.
So the hope is to have league games for the high school girls by spring of 2024, but hopefully it's going to be league games for whoever's there. So if there's a contingent of 5th, 6th, and 7th graders that are there, and there's several teams for those age or grades, then this will be a league for them.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to court the 16 and 17-year-olds. The problem I'm facing is a lot of them are already, I don't want to say shy, but they're already kind of specialized at that time. Their parents have been paying thousands for soccer or basketball, or travel, volleyball or softball. They already have something in mind as far as their future goals of getting a college scholarship, and playing this experimental flag football is not it.
Right.
And I'm trying to break that mindset. And down the line, hopefully we can have something to where, Oklahoma City, there's one in Oklahoma City, and Edmond is participating in it. There's one out in Piedmont. There's one out in Yukon Mustang, Del City, and we have a city championship. And it's it's just a whole thing throughout the entire metro.
Yeah, and that kind of follows the model of kind of like the soccer does, right? Like you have leagues and people travel, and it's just growing that. And is there already guys leagues for this stuff?
There are guys leagues.
Yeah, flag football guys leagues.
There are, but tackle football already takes precedent. If guys are playing flag, they're probably most likely just playing 7-on-7 in the off season with their respective high schools.
Makes sense.
So what I hope for this is that the OSSAA will see flag football as a viable option for girls sports and add it to where you can go to Edmond Santa Fe, you can go to Edmond North, Deer Creek, Yukon, or whatever, and sign up and play for your team, play for the state championships. Strike League will be an entity that acts as an AAU or a club arm.
Sure.
To where whenever your season for the school ends and you still like it so much, you can come and play at Strike League.
So it's important for you to just build that relationship with the high schools as well, then, not just your own in the summer, to help get the word out, because that's effectively where you're going to recruit from. Get the kids involved, and they go home to mom and dad, say, hey, I want to play flag football with Strike League. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm just going to ride these middle schoolers until they become high schoolers. And then...
eventually it'll grow up, right?
Eventually we'll get there. So we'll see.
What's the, kind of the sales pitch then, I guess, for convincing kids to come do flag football over, because it's the one thing that is good out here for both men and boys and girls, men and women, is there is an abundance of sport on either side, right? Like, the girls have volleyball, softball, tennis, soccer and all those things. And obviously the guys have baseball, basketball, football and all that stuff as well. Like, adding this, what is kind of some of the benefits to, flag football as far as youth development, growing up, and hand-eye coordination, and how do you convince them to come over and play with you is kind of what I'm asking.
Well, this has been a sport that has been just excluding women for nearly 100 years. And I believe it is probably the best team sport there is. And it's America's true pastime. We always say it's baseball, but really, if you really look at it,
nobody watches baseball. They do, but
they do, but it's not in the way that we worship football. And I think it's time for them to participate in that, and they see that. Especially if you're playing good football, winning football, people will want to come out and support that. It's just there is no other sport where you have your brothers to your left and to your right of you, and you're just playing. Everybody has their role, and this person might not be able to do something that this person can do, but you have to rely on that person to do what they're supposed to do so that you guys can reach the end goal and win the game. And I don't think any other sport has it that way like football. And once they get a taste, I'm positive that it's for them. And I know I'm just trying to get the diehards, the girls who've always wanted to play, never had the opportunity, the girls who aged out of elementary school once the guys gotten a little bigger and there wasn't really the opportunity. I'm trying to court those girls and have those girls bring their teammates, their sisters, their cousins, and bring them out and have them realize, this is a really fun game. Just really fun game to play.
Right.
And once they try it, I'm positive that.
Sure.
There's not much I can really say, but I just know I'm positive that once they try it, it's going to be well worth their while. It's going to change what they think and perceive about sports in general, not alone football.
And I think the one thing that gives you hope as well, is that there's a women's football team here, right?
There is.
That is very successful.
Oklahoma City Later Force football team,
So there's clearly they're going to have families, and if there's a daughter or a son grows up and sees their mum out there absolutely crushing it.
We actually have a couple of them who are going to be instructors.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we're a strike league. Unfortunately, we've had. I try to organize the sessions once every 2 weeks to allow for people's summer vacations and whatnot, and unfortunately, doing that lands on the days that they have games.
Okay.
So if we had a game last week, we had a session last week, and then we have another session on the 8th of July. They had 2 games. Their first playoff game and their second playoff game is going to be on the 8th. So they haven't been able to show up, but they're with us in spirit. And whenever that ends, once they win on next Saturday, they get to go to Canton and they get to play in the national championship game.
Amazing.
And then after that, I wanted them to come not just to teach or instruct, but to show that there is a space for them. For young girls, this is what the end of the line looks like. You can still be an adult and still play and still succeed, and have them give their testimony about participating in football and playing on a winning team and whatnot. So
I'm sure there's a lot of dads out there with daughters that are thrilled about this as well, right?
I mean, I hope so. I'm trying to reach the dads. I'm trying to reach the soccer moms. I've reached a couple who've been spreading the word with their teams, and that has helped. But I'm just trying to reach guys like myself. Who thought they were going to have sons and had a bunch of, a clan of daughters. And hopefully some of them are athletic. We throw them in here and see what they got. So
I think it's when you're a kid, you play a bunch of sports, right? Generally, you play 3, sometimes more of that, and every season has a sport for it, and sometimes multiple sports. And I think that's valuable to kids to not. There's some cases where some kids just are going to be absolute phenoms and just dedicate themselves to a basketball or a baseball or a football, and they're going to be professional athletes, right? The percentage of those kids are going to make it very small. So majority is that everyone's going to play something, and that makes you a well-rounded athlete, builds character, and all of that stuff. And adding this to the list is not something that it seems like it makes sense, right? It's not something that's so far out there that that no one's going to do it, right? Clearly, there's a need for it already, and you're seeing success with it early on. So it's going to just build from here, which is super exciting.
And to your point of your earlier question, if they add football to what they already do, it makes them better as an overall athlete. If you're just playing softball year round, you're going to exhibit a little bit of burnout. You're not going to grow as an athlete, and you can have an off season and come back in shape. So it's one of those things where the more kids are doing, the better it is for them in the long run. They stay in school, the graduation rates are up, and there's scholarship opportunities now. 17 NAIA schools are offering scholarships right now for girls flag football.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I think that's just the beginning. It's only going to be a matter of time before, FBS Division I starts to realize, okay, this is as more states adopted, this is not going anywhere, and we need to take advantage of it. So
that's amazing.
I don't see why Oklahoma can't be an incubator of top national talent.
The other thing that I grew up in Wales, right? Wales is known for sheep, rain, and rugby. So rugby is huge in Wales, right? And rugby's kind of full field of rugby is 15 aside. They have 7-on-7 as well, which the USA are now very good at. Sevens. The USA are very good at, because they basically recruited a bunch of sprinters that didn't make the Olympics and said, learn how to catch a football and you're a rugby ball and you're off. But women's rugby's coming in too, right? And that kind of women's rugby and flag football, they can kind of parlay each other, right? They can kind of just feed off each other. And I graduated from Southern Nazarene up in Bethany, and we have a men's and a women's rugby program now, and they're very, very good at it. It's something that when I graduated, I'm like, this is never going to happen. And it happened very fast, and that's at university level. And like I said, there's scholarships, and there's it's only a matter of time before this becomes a real thing. And like I said, if you've already got 17 universities, then you have a league and a championship, and you just have to get there and travel to the games. 'Cause.
It's just, it's. I don't see why Oklahoma can't be an incubator of top national talent. You know, and there's more. There's scholarship opportunities now. 17 NAIA schools are offering scholarships right now for girls flag football. Wow. It's just. it's coming. It's a wave.
Yeah.
Already 8 states in the United States to have flag football as a sanctioned sport. 17 universities out there, NAIA schools that offer flag football as a scholarship. I mean, there are girls out there who are signing their letter of intent to play football.
Yeah.
And it's a reality.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm just trying to get it to where Oklahoma can see that this is a possibility.
Yeah.
And just jump right in.
We love football here, right? So, I mean, you're in the right place. How do you get to like you said that the state is like a sanctioned, state. How do you get to that? Like, how do you get to being the level of, like a Florida or what? Like, what does that take?
Well, out of the 8 states, I believe 6 of them, maybe 7. I know Alabama's one of them, but 7 of them have NFL affiliates in those states. They have NFL teams that are initiating NFL flag, and they're trying to get that particular state, sanctioned with the governing school body, and they've been successful in those areas. We don't really have that here in Oklahoma. But the NFL, I believe, of course, they're trying to get more women on board. Right. They also have a plan to make women's flag an Olympic sport by 2028 in Los Angeles. Brilliant. Yeah. So there's a lot more women's flag. You'll see like ads and a push. Title IX just turned 50 last year, and there's just a new frontier of sports for women, and to me that's football. Right. And we don't necessarily have that kind of push here. And if somebody doesn't do anything, then we probably might be the last of the 50 states to adopt it versus the first 10 or 15. And it's one of those things where I've said before, I can't wait for somebody else to do it. Yeah. Why not me? Yeah.
So how do people get involved then? How do they have, if someone's listening that has a daughter or a son, is a father of daughters, and they thought they were going to have sons, and they think that, hey, I've got a few athletic daughters that I want to build, want to get into, want to do flag football together, and also have something that, they can do together, right? And have a connection. Like, how do they get involved?
They can go to strikeleague.co, and we have an RSVP button where they can register, and that'll put them on a database, and we can see what grade they're in. It asks them all kinds of different questions, so we can get a proper gauge of where to slot them in once these leagues come into play. And we have all the information. We got rules, regulations. We got a football glossary, just in case. It's just a place where you can visit and kind of learn the game a little bit. And we have these things called try-ins, which are these sessions where it's not necessarily a tryout, where there's a limited number of spots that a bunch of people are trying to make. Whereas it's more like an open house for football. We just come in and see what it's about, see what we're doing. And each week is progressively adds on to the week prior. And we got a page that describes everything about the try-in and what we're trying to accomplish, what they need to bring, to fill out a waiver and whatnot. But if you just follow us on our socials and sign up through our website, and
Yeah, sweet. Well, dude, thanks so much for coming down and sharing your story and sharing the plan. Like, it's, I love doing stuff like this when it's at the beginning, right? Because in 5, 6, 8, 10 years time, we get to do this again, and we get to challenge how much it's grown. Yeah. And, your daughters are getting older and how much they've enjoyed it. And, I love seeing the beginning of something, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing the stories. For people listening, I'll put the links to the website, social media, so you can go check that out and get involved, right? And it's nerve-wracking showing up to try something, and so bring a friend. Come together, come in pairs, come as a group and enjoy it, and try something new, because athletics at a young age is super important. And I obviously I grew up playing golf since the age of 6, and soccer as long as football as long as I can remember, and I've got lifelong friends from that. And like you said, from your coaching, you've got the same too. So for people listening, I'll put the links in the description, and we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaw people have a rich history and a bright future. At the Choctaw Cultural Center, you can take part in a story 14,000 years in the making. Stroll through our immersive exhibits portraying Choctaw life from the moment our ancestors emerged from the Nani Weha in Mississippian homelands to the Trail of Tears, where we lost so many loved ones, and finally to the modern-day tribe making a positive impact on local communities throughout southeastern Oklahoma. Try your hand at our social dancing and stickball and learn more about our vibrant culture through demonstrations, workshops, and classes. The kids will have a blast in our Luxie Activity Center. The Choctaw Cultural Center is more than a museum. It's a living, breathing experience. Visit choctawculturalcenter.com to plan your visit. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.